All right, so hello and welcome everyone to the third episode of Legal Marketing Monthly Podcast. Here today we have very special guest Nimitt Dixit. So Nimitt is an editor at ET Legal, and he is an alumni of Hidayatullah National Law University, the same university that I studied from as well. And so Nimitt's career journey, as far as from what I have followed, is rather unique, and it's not like what a traditional law graduate would aspire to do, but it's like very interesting in a way. I would say that it was an interesting way that he was working at one of the topmost law firms of the country, but he still chose to do what he wanted to do. Then he pursued a course in journalism. Then he started working with Thomson Reuters and then Asian legal business. And now finally he's working with ET Legal. So welcome, Nimit. Why don't you tell us a bit more about yourself?
Thanks, Pawan. I think you've covered broadly the outline of what I've done. And thank you for having me. A good initiative. I really love, talking to people like you. And I love the fact that there are more people like you doing very interesting content like this that we don't get to hear in our daily lives because of all the noise
Right.
around us generally with the news. So I'm also a fellow HNLU survivor,
Right.
just like you.
Yeah.
When I was in HNLU, we didn't even have walls, boundaries. We had cows.
Yeah.
We had the thing we saw most was cow dung in our college for the longest time. No
Right.
concept of
I
placements.
think
There
I
was
think like
nothing.
the college went through the most major transformation during your 5 years, right? Did you also like were
I
there like
mean,
in the old campus or were you in the new campus
no,
all
no.
along?
I was the second batch in the new campus, but a
Okay.
lot of our seniors were in the old campus, and there was a huge strike in the old campus that
Yeah,
we
it
always
was.
used to hear stories about. And
Yeah.
you know how college is. Your story becomes the most important story in college.
Yeah.
So depending on who you spoke to, you felt like you were speaking to like Subhash Chandra Bose or someone like that. They would tell you stories with so much passion. But that I
Right.
think was the key learning from HNLU for me. College, I don't think academically, to be very frank with you, was very. I mean, I did pretty well. I was not a top 10 student, but I was a top 40 student.
But I
You
think
know,
you overall had a very holistic approach to college time. It wasn't
yeah,
just
yeah.
academics.
I,
I
I
think you
think
were
yeah,
a lot
I think
involved
that's
in the cultural
important.
stuff and all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I was cultural staff. I was the first HNLU. I was part of the first HNLU team to ever win a parliamentary debate
Right.
outside
Right.
college.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, we used to travel, have fun, do things we like to do, meet friends, and I think the network that I've built at HNLU till today holds me in good stead more than anything I learned. I took my internships pretty seriously,
Right.
at least after the third year. Like I did
Yeah,
most
and
of my
I think
learning at
I
my
think
internships.
it showed eventually when you finally started working. So
Yeah.
it showed. Yeah.
I actually have an interesting story
Yeah.
about that.
Sure.
So
Would love to know.
first, when I finished my 5 years at HNLU, I sort of had a callback internship, come almost a job at a law firm called Samvad in Bangalore.
Right. I know that. Yeah.
And this was back ago in like 2015. Samvad was a small firm, but really, really good, well-respected
Right.
lawyers,
Right.
and great firm. But honestly, I was just not good at corporate work, and they were
Right.
primarily doing a lot of corporate work.
Right.
There was one person at Samvad. Am I allowed to take names here? I don't
Yeah.
know. It's
Yeah. I
just
think you
somebody.
can. Yeah. Yeah. It's okay.
Yeah, so I won't say his whole name, but my friend Sandeep, he was at Samvad. Then he was a senior associate, I think, back then when I was an intern in my last internship, and I did a lot of work for him. He gave me good research work and good disputes work, which I was always interested in. That was always my forte.
Yeah.
So I was sort of getting that offer. It was in Bangalore, which is where I'm from. My family lives here. I
Yeah.
still live here now.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
at that point of time, I didn't want to go back to Bangalore and I didn't want to do corporate. So I
Right.
didn't take that job. Instead, I moved to Delhi
Right.
and through an uncle of mine who knew somebody, got a job
Okay.
at this really small disputes boutique called Ranjana Roy Gavai Associates, RRG.
RRG.
Uh, I've subsequently got a lot of HNLU people internships there, so I don't know if you know, but some people do know that firm. Small firm, disputes, arbitration, insolvency. Insolvency had just started, 2016 the act came, so just before insolvency actually. But they had really good clients. I won't name the clients, but really big names that you've heard of, big
So I
conglomerates in
also have
India.
heard like a rumor about this entire stint is that
Yeah.
you were doing so great that you were offered like a very early like path to become a partner very soon. Like you were
How do
doing
you
such
know
good
this?
work.
Who are you speaking to?
Yeah, so there was this rumor going around in college, and I was like, how much substance is there to it? But I think then you leveraged that, or maybe you were just so good that then you finally got offer from tier one
No.
as well.
So what happened? What
Yeah,
happened is why I told you the internship story. It comes back here. What happened is I was there. My first salary was 9,000 rupees. I was sleeping on one of the floors of my friend Maharishi. He's now practicing in Assam. He's
right,
three
right.
years senior to me from HNLU only. I was
Yeah,
sleeping on his floor, and Sawmill, Aman, my
yeah,
batchmates.
yeah.
All of us used to sort of live together. And I was earning the least amount of money at the time. I was earning 9,000. So
Yeah.
I couldn't pay rent, but he's like, okay, you sleep here, whatever I cook. I was like, yeah, I'll eat, whatever their system was. I will live in that system, which was
Mhm.
fine. It was two Assamese boys. I love Assamese people
Yeah,
generally, it's more so after living with
yeah,
them. So then they used to have all their Assamese friends over. So all the words I learned are mostly the swear words and all the
right.
words that you can't
That's
use
the first
generally.
thing
Because
you learn in any new
that's the
language,
first
right?
thing you
Yeah,
learn.
yeah,
Right. So I lived with them, and then I was like, really struggling, and I was like, what do I do? So I was like, I have to do something crazy. So I did some piece of work where
right,
I took up this matter for my managing partner, and
right,
she gave it to me directly. Somehow I got this chance. That was luck. And
right,
then I found this solution that we could do now. I don't exactly remember, but it was something to do with a bank guarantee. I don't remember exactly what it was. But I went to her and I thought that I found this solution. So I'll go to her, and she was sitting with the partner in charge of the matter also. And I was like, hey, we should do this. We haven't done this yet. And they just looked at me like this. And I honestly had no idea. And I left the room.
yeah.
Then she calls me in at night and she's like, that was a really good solution. I don't know why we haven't done that, but I'm making your salary 15,000 rupees.
Wow.
Then she made it 22,500 in 2 months. And
Yeah,
then she was basically telling me that, if you stick around for 2 years, I'll make you partner. But
right.
that's the thing, it's a very small firm. And also, I think it's very important for people here to know
Yeah,
that a lot of people will make you a lot of promises like this. It
right.
like maybe you heard the rumor because maybe I only may have said it to some friend of mine
Yeah,
that वो तो बोल रही है कि 2 साल में partner बना
yeah,
दूंगा. But
yeah.
all of this has to be taken with a pinch of salt. Do not pin your hopes and dreams. Remember your own mindset and what you want to do in life, because
True.
people will tell you everything to keep you.
True.
They'll
Yeah, if they
promise you the
if they
moon.
realize your potential and if they know that you sticking around is
Yeah,
beneficial for them, then making a few light
yeah,
promises is not
exactly,
really that big a deal.
exactly. So I was very happy at the time because of this promise. And it's been about 9 months I was at RRG. And then
But
Sandeep,
who knows? She might have kept it also. Who knows? Like if
she
you're
may
doing
have, she
really
may have.
great work, right? And like if you were bringing in more clients or doing good work, then maybe yeah,
Yeah.
it's in her
Maybe.
benefit
No,
also
no.
to have
I'm sure.
such a great
And
partner.
she
Right?
was a great lady. She's a great
Yeah,
lady. I no doubt. I'm just saying generally, not that she
generally,
would
yeah,
not have kept it,
yeah,
but it's also like a thing to say
right, right,
that you generally, you end up people end up promising you things often
right, right,
just for whatever their own interests rather than your. She was a very good boss, to be honest.
right, right.
She was
And
always
it's
great to
very
me, and
important
she
to
had really
have
good
good bosses
connections.
at least at the start of your career, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I always did well with female bosses somehow. Anyway, we'll come to that. But so 9 months later, randomly out of the blue, I'm happy at RRG. Sandeep, who I was working with at Samvad,
Okay.
who I was interning
He
under,
has now joined
and
CAM,
did
is
some.
it?
He has reached out to me saying, I have joined CAM in Hyderabad, and my partner is looking for a corporate come disputes person. I was like, if it's corporate, I don't want to do it. Not only that I don't want to do it, that would be lying to you. The honest truth is, I don't think I was good at it at all. I was really not good at it in my own estimation. And I was like, if it's litigation, I can do it. Then he's like, no. But the point is, then he set up the interview. I had 5 rounds of interview, and I cleared them
Right,
and finally joined CAM. But it's crazy how some internship somebody remembered you, and I hadn't spoken to him since.
right,
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 I'd
right,
never spoken to him. I didn't even have his number. He
right.
had my number, or he got my number, and he remembered and he reached out. And then I sort of got into this interview process. So
It
it's
could be
crazy how
that,
an internship.
it could be that people
Uh,
value certain kind of working dynamic, and like during your internship,
yeah,
he might have figured that who would make a good part of the team, and then maybe you struck his mind,
yeah,
and then he called you.
yeah. So a lot of things that happen so randomly in
Right,
life. I feel like the best we can do is just make sure we identify the right opportunities at the right time and make a decision. But it's things happen so randomly. And then
but
I
now
then I was in
now
camp for 5 years.
5 years is a very long time, and I
four
would want
four
to
years,
know
four and a
4
half
years.
years.
So what I would want to know is that the main crucial switch that you decided, okay, corporate law or a tier one law firm thing, or the normal corporate ladder that everyone takes out of graduating from an NLU is not what I want to do, and I want to pursue journalism. So how did that happen?
Honestly, I was always interested in content creation.
Okay,
I think journalism is a form of content
form of
creation.
content, the oldest
It
form, I would say. Yeah,
always
yeah,
the oldest form. See, today it's called content creation, so
yeah.
that becomes a larger umbrella. So I was always interested in that. I used to do it mostly on Instagram and mostly like fun things. I used to make parodies related to our work related stuff,
Yeah, like
some
you
random
and
work that
Akshay
I'm doing. And
Shandilya are like the kind of people who make
Akshay's far
that.
better. Akshay's far better than Akshay took it to
Yeah,
another level, and he was far better and more talented
yeah,
than what I did. I was doing very simple, basic stuff. He was doing some really good stuff. I
right,
remember
right,
that.
right,
Yeah, I think he really left an impression on a lot of people with
right,
the kind of stuff. But it was basically just a way to cut time and do things. And
right,
after a point, I was working really hard. I got a promotion ahead of uh, my year
right,
in a lot of senses. I was doing well, but I realized after a point that I was really not happy in
right,
life. I was getting very, and I see everybody around me doing this, where everyone was a little anxious, everyone was a little insecure about their lives, everyone was a little that never truly goes away. I've seen, like, I thought 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, and
right,
there's no way I'm losing my job. I'm getting great bonuses, my reviews
right.
are good,
You were
and
doing
I
good
just
at
didn't
your work.
understand.
Still, somehow you
And I
didn't
didn't
feel very
understand.
content.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, and also I felt anxious. I felt angsty. I thought I was getting angry. I thought I was losing my extroverted social nature.
right.
I was becoming cynical, and I realized I was just doing it for the money.
Right. Yeah,
There was no other
that's
reason I was
I've
doing
like
this job.
heard the same kind of notion coming from a lot of people who work in tier one, and like they're workaholics. They like working sometimes, but then there are times where they kind of like ponder upon the thought, just look back and feel that okay, I'm making a decent amount of money, but am I able to truly like spend it on the things or experiences? Like they do not even have the time to do that, so they start feeling like, what's the point of all this money if I can't like truly make what I want off it, right? That could
Yeah,
be one thing.
true. True, absolutely true. That's one way. My way was partly was that, partly was also, I think in my head, just I was very overwhelmed all the time because I was always moving from one matter to the next. And you had 5 or 6 things going on at the same time, so your mind is never truly free. Whether whether you're even taking a holiday and going
Yeah.
somewhere else, your mind at some point is still on your work at all times.
Gets
And I just
overwhelming
didn't
after a
like to be
point
in
of
a,
time. Yeah.
yeah, and I just don't want to be in a, which is fine. A lot of people like to live that way,
Yeah.
and it works for them. I have very close friends for whom
Yeah.
that works, right? But it just wasn't working for me. I would rather take a pay cut and do a job where I have enough time for myself. My brain is in a place where a part of it is focusing on happiness and life and things outside of work, and part of it is focused on work and doing that sort of stuff.
Right.
So then I decided, after I became senior associate, I went to my boss. I didn't know I was going to become senior associate, so I was not in the announcement room. I was in Delhi
Right.
for some personal stuff. So in Delhi, somebody called me and told me you become senior associate. I was like, oh, what? I had no idea. Then I came down to Bombay, and I had actually gone to Delhi and stuff because I was meeting some journalists, and I had an interview in
Okay.
Chennai at Asian College of Journalism
Right.
and stuff
Right.
like that. So I was doing all of that stuff, and I got the interview. I cleared the interview, got the offer from ACJ, came
Right.
back to Bombay, and I told my partner, "Thank you for making me essay, but I have to quit."
What timing he was. Yeah.
And she thought I was going to, be and she was actually the best person I've ever worked for, Shaneen.
Right. Right. Right.
She's one of the best people in law firm life. If there's anybody you should work for in the dispute setup in top law firms, it's Shaneen Parekh. She's the best person. There's no better boss there. There is no better
Your
boss.
story really stands out more so for the fact that you really had good people that you were working with and you were doing great at your work, but still somehow you realized that you had a different calling, so you made that call. Usually, it's when people are frustrated from the people around, or sometimes like they're not doing good, or if the pay is not good. But I think you were checking all the boxes, and yet you realized your calling. So that's, I think, even more so commendable.
Yeah. I actually am still great friends with all the people who were in my team back then,
Right.
and Shamim, who was my boss. They were I had great people around me. My flatmate was my teammate at camp. His wedding is next month. I'm emceeing it,
Right.
so we're all really close.
So
We're a
even
good
when I
family.
go to
He's also
Delhi,
quit camp now.
yeah, when I go to
Most
get
people have actually quit. Yeah.
when I go to Delhi, I stay at my friends, and I see that all Sam Cam people are living together. Like,
Camp.
some yeah. So yeah, but you are yeah in camp. So yeah. So now let's move on to the second phase of your career, that you started working in journalism. You started with Thomson, then you moved on to another organization, and finally you are in ET Legal now. So why don't you tell me more about what exactly is it that you do? Like, on a brief understanding, we understand what you're an editor, but like, what does your work look like? What does your day at work look like?
Wow, I didn't prepare for that. Okay. Uh, so what it looks like. So what it started off was with I started with the Reuters, which is part of the Thomson Reuters family. The second organization, Asian Legal Business, is also a part of Thomson Reuters.
Right.
So they're both a
The
part of
broader
Thomson
umbrella.
Reuters.
Yeah,
Just
yeah, true.
yeah, Reuters is the newsroom. It's a wire agency.
Yeah.
Generally, they are the people that bring the news to the people that bring you the news,
Yeah, true.
right? So if you see a Hindu byline or an Economic Times byline, often it'll say Reuters or
Yeah.
PTI
Yeah,
or one of
PTI
those. Those
is
are
the
all
Indian
wire
one. Yeah, true,
agencies.
true, true. They
Yeah,
bring the news
so
first, and
ANI.
then you kind of provide your opinion and stance on
Yeah.
it. True.
So I was basically one of the first three people that set up the Reuters legal vertical in India. It was sort of like an offshoot of the Reuters legal vertical in New York, which is based out of
Okay.
New York, where who did most of the reporting and everything was that they wanted back end stuff done here
Right.
mostly, and then they wanted social media, and so we set that up. But we did such a good job that more and more work started coming our way. We started reporting in that team. We started
Right.
doing a link newsletter that got really popular. I think it's still around
Right.
at Reuters what they're doing. And then after 3 years, I had some personal situation with my growth, and I
Right.
sort of quit at that point. I don't want to go into that, but
Right. Right.
and I moved within because one of my friends told me about this ALB role. ALB is a fantastic organization
Right.
again, a fantastic bunch of people to work with.
Right.
Anybody who's looking to get into legal journalism, look at ALB as a because the editor is really good. They support you. The team
Right.
supports you in what you want to write. The only thing, and I would have stuck around with ALB for longer. I think the growth is really slow. Maybe
Okay.
that's a TR problem and not an ALB problem
Right.
because TR is a very big legacy organization. The
Yeah.
growth is a little slow, but I loved the kind of work I did there. I did the first interview with Ravneet Kaur, who was the first woman chairperson of the Competition Commission of India. So I was the
Right.
first person to interview her. I wrote a piece called "The Death of a Tribunal" about the NCLT,
Oh.
which got a lot of flack from
Right.
the NCLT.
Yeah.
Right. And I got to talk about a lot of interesting issues in the market. I broke a couple of big news stories and things. So it got me really connected to the market because what I was doing with Reuters was a lot of this back end work and focusing on the US and European markets
Yeah.
because that was of interest to them. The Indian legal market was really not of interest to them.
Yeah.
But at ALB, I was heading the reporting for the Indian legal market,
Right.
and and I was also doing a lot of Asian reporting. I was working with, I was, speaking to law firms from Japan and South Korea all the way down to Indonesia and to the Middle East.
Right.
So it was a great experience getting to know a lot of different kinds of lawyers, the way legal markets function
Right.
differently, and the nuances between them. Because broadly, you can sort of broad stroke them and say that this is the kind of. But actually, if you examine each legal market, it's quite different kind of things that are going on. Then this whole AI advent that has come over the last 3 years.
But do
It
you
was
feel
great.
that at least regions have some common denominator? Let's say that, uh, let's say Asia is the broader region, but let's say if you analyze Japan apart from Hong Kong, or let's say somewhere down Southeast Asia, like, do you feel they have some common denominator, or each nation has a different way of functioning?
if you look specifically at Asia, common denominators are hard to find. I'll tell you, see, for example, in India, right? A lot of law firms look at growth differently from, say, how Japanese law firms would look at growth. Even though the common denominator, if you want to say, a lot of the Asian legal markets started off as family run lawyers and then
Right,
family run businesses. A lot of them transformed from there.
right,
India's markets are transforming, but a lot of the leading firms are still very family run,
right,
right? And this, even if the main family members are not involved, the firm culture is still very family run. So the way they look at growth as compared to, say, an internationally professional run law firm like Kirkland Ellis,
right,
right, is completely different. Kirkland Ellis is looking at that next big number that they can
right.
hit. Law firms, because they're so strongly controlled, well-oiled smaller machines, there may be a different way to look at growth for them, not in the traditional or sense that companies would look at growth in. So
But
I see
what?
that that is a difference in India, but in Asia that has changed now. Like Japanese firms are following their clients to Europe now.
Yeah,
A lot of Japanese firms opened offices in Europe this year across Amsterdam, Japan, the UK, Brussels. There are Japanese firms who have opened multiple offices in the US. I know for a fact that Japanese firms are waiting to come into India. We'll come to that later.
yeah.
They've followed their clients into Thailand. They followed their clients into Singapore. Indonesia has become a big market. So they've changed the way they operate from that traditional sense. Asian markets, generally, what was common, they come from a sort of conservative notion, but
Yeah,
some have freed up and moved out faster than others.
right,
India, although on paper, is trying to show that they're very professional and they're moving on
right, right.
faster. The actual situation, in my experience, and my
Still kind of
experience
a
alone, I
family
would
run
like to say,
show at the
it's
end of the
still,
day.
yeah, it's still
Yeah.
a family run show at the end of the day, and growth is looked at differently.
What difference, like, do you think this could also be attributed to our liberalization being a lot later compared to these Asian markets, or was it around the same time? Like, would you say that Japan
Different
opened
markets,
up
different ages.
a lot faster than a lot before us, maybe?
But why did Japan open up, right? We need to look at that because Japan became a strong trading partner for the US. The US, after World War II, felt responsible to sort of build Japan, keep it away from communism to some
Right,
extent
right,
back
right.
then when the
Yeah,
Cold War was going on, but
yeah,
build. The US was looking for symbols of capitalism around the world, right?
right,
You look at and Singapore was always a trading hub because it was on the Malacca Strait where oil passes through. So
right.
Singapore essentially was a marine sort of shipping hub for the world always, and that you leverage that to transform into sort of a global powerhouse.
Economic
Actually,
hub,
I think
yeah.
Singapore, yeah, correct, right? That happened. Hong Kong again, huge shipping hub, right,
Right.
for the Britishers, and then eventually now for the world, and now for China,
Yeah.
right? So I think the way you look at growth in these countries was different. In India, actually, I was speaking to someone recently who told me I think India is one of is the only example in the world where such a poor country has chosen democracy and somehow successfully maintained that democracy over 70 years' time. There
It's
is
a
no
very
other country in the
sensitive
world.
topic. Like, I would,
It is.
like, some people would debate that at the end of the day, is democracy like really beneficial for us? Like, was it the right choice also? Like, a very sensitive topic because we see China as a counterpart, right? Let's say they are our neighbors. They're like fairly
Yeah.
communist, right? And they're still progressing like anything. Their
So
GDP is a lot
what do you
higher
think?
than
Are they
before.
communist? Are they communist in what sense? Because they opened their economy before India did.
I
They
mean,
opened their economy in the
in terms
70s.
of trade liberalization, yeah, they are, yeah, they opened it a lot before. But like in terms of power center, they're still fairly communist,
They're
right?
pseudo-communist and
Yeah,
one-party system, yeah, and they are pseudo-communists in the sense that they allow privatize private companies, but they control the finances, they control the banking
yeah,
mostly.
yeah.
So
So
that's how they're doing it.
the
Yeah,
power is
and
not
but
very decentralized in that manner. So there's still a lot of oligarchs and monarchs and sorry, oligarchs and a lot of monopolies and stuff like that, right? Right.
to
So wait, how did we land here? We were
what?
talking about,
How do we land here?
yeah, we were talking about your day at
We're
work.
talking about India's legal. No, we were
Yeah,
talking
yeah.
about India's legal liberalize. So the other thing is, I think India liberalization calling India a liberalized country from 1991 is okay on paper, but India liberalized very
Truly
slowly. India is
liberalized.
still liberalizing.
I think, but like, yeah, since the dot com, like after the dot com, I think we were fairly like liberalized. I think IT was the biggest contributor in such liberalization.
But see, what do you say? What do you when you say liberalization, right? What do you mean? What do you mean
We
that
mean that we open our markets for the foreign players, and then we also try to engage into global
have we
trade
today
a
opened
bit
our
more.
markets for foreign players completely?
Not
Even
in the
this year,
legal,
we
yeah.
opened insurance. Forget legal. Even insurance, we opened
Yeah.
just this year fully, right?
There are
Like,
some
and
some
also when we
automatic
open the
routes to
market,
certain percent. Let's say there's some automatic routes in certain percent where FDI is directly allowed, and maybe then the country has to evaluate the national interest that like there shouldn't
correct,
be like a
correct.
foreign company hegemony in any sector, and especially like more sensitive sectors. So then it is assessed on a case to case basis. But I think when it comes to at least retail and stuff, which is like not very sensitive. At least in those areas, I think we are fairly liberalized now.
But you're okay with an Indian company hegemony?
Hegemony in India or abroad?
India.
I mean, as long
What's the
as they're doing
difference?
right.
Do you think companies think in terms of national interest? Any company from anywhere? Or do they only think of their company?
I think that's what they show, but I don't think truly in the
I don't
end
think
they
any
only care
company is
about
thinking
money.
of
Yeah.
national interest. So I
Yeah.
don't think foreign and Indian hegemony is what matters. I think hegemony is the problem.
Yeah.
Generally, consolidation of power, and like our Competition Act says, dominance in itself is not a problem. But I think in India, this is a story I've been actually working on recently. I've not put it out there yet. I don't know if I
Right.
should discuss it. When you plan to release this? Anyway,
Yeah.
so I'm talking. There's been no enforcement action in India by the CCI over the last 3 or 4 years. Very little, which
Yeah.
means a lot of cartels are forming. There's a lot of uh, anti-competitive agreements, concerted action, abuse of dominance going on in India, and not a lot of stuff is happening, especially at a level like if you look at your bus tickets, right? Today, when you're traveling, if you look at bus tickets, they suddenly all go up at the same time and all come down at the same time.
Yeah.
They're all being run in a man. It's a simple example, but you'll see that everybody sort of acting in concert. There was a time where the Indian competition regulator was checking all this.
Yeah.
Even tire manufacturers were punished. There was a lot
I think
going
there
on.
was some
But today,
cartelization in cement
there's
manufacturing as well. Yeah.
cement manufacturing was a big case. There was a lot. Cement manufacturing was a historic case, in fact. There was a lot going on. And now there's been nothing going on for a long time.
Yeah.
So
True.
it's sort of unchecked growth. And if you see the merger control regime, while they
Yeah.
keep coming out with new notification regimes, keep reducing the thresholds, increasing the thresholds, digital thresholds,
Barely any
whatever,
action
right?
though. Yeah.
No, there is no merger in India till date has been stopped. Not one.
Right. Right.
I mean, the
Maybe they
one
would put
big
out a
one you could
notice
see.
and then they would let it go. Some
So
kind of
now they've
scrutiny.
so now they've done something where you can sort of modify. They allow modifications,
Right.
but the modifications are really just they're a paper tiger, right?
Right.
They're
Right.
not really changing anything. If you look at a, a an anti a merger like Geo Hotstar, right? The
Yeah.
Reliance Disney one
Yeah.
that's just happened.
Yeah.
It shouldn't. I mean, if you just look at it from a very layman
Afar.
sense, it sort of really kills competition in this
It
market and
does. It
creates a
does.
very dominant entity,
Right. Right.
right? Which maybe, and it shows, you can argue both ways that this streamlines a lot of process for viewers, for consumers, even for, but it's really bad for advertisers, say, because they have nobody else to go to now, like for a lot of things, for the sports market, for certain regional markets. So I think it's just
Yeah,
today we're in a place where
not only cartelization, even for predatory pricing. If we see, then a lot of e-commerce giants initially they offered deep
yeah,
discounting, and if we see at
yeah,
Geo how they rolled out free SIM cards at the
yeah,
initially, and then they kind of became a duopoly. Yeah,
yeah,
there is idea, but it's barely anything. So now they're raising the prices.
yeah,
So yeah, true. I
yeah,
have also felt like
absolutely.
CCI is not really doing that great a job.
Not doing much at all.
Yeah.
But they're focused on other things, right? I think the current group of people are focused on regulations. They want to build regulations for the future. I think that is their focus. So, but I feel like you can't just focus on one thing. Although maybe they're doing a good job on that, but you can't just be focusing on one thing. In fact, the previous regime was going after big tech because there was a global big tech wave all around the world. Everyone was going after big tech under antitrust laws. Google, there were plenty of cases. Some are still going on. There's a legacy Apple case still going on.
Right,
Some
right,
stuff is still going on, but mostly, there's nothing new that's coming. There's been an Asian Paints case now. In my opinion, that's not really a case. That's sort of an arm twisting case that's
right.
going on. But that's my opinion. I have no evidence
A lot of cases
to
are
back
arm
that up.
twisting cases in India. Yeah.
Yeah. India is a very litigious society in that sense. It's not about one filing. It's about how can we arm twist someone? Let's go here, there, and everywhere. I'm following this case. I can't tell you who because there's somebody I know well and I've been getting a lot of information for them. But it's a very famous Supreme Court case, a party in a very famous Supreme Court case earlier this year. I'll tell you
Right,
that much. Very big Supreme
right,
Court case, commercial case. So they are now filing NCLT. They're going to CCI. They're going to the Delhi High Court to stop something that should just not be stopped because everyone has been throwing them out for so long. And
right.
they keep chasing the media saying, look, we're doing this just to put pressure or just to show in the news that, look, we're trying to stop this.
Okay.
And and in the beginning, I did publish because I was like, okay, it's still news, it's legit, I'll do it. But now I'm just like, what am I sort of pushing through?
Right,
Even though there has been a filing, yeah, they've challenged it here, but these are the sort of filings that are just being filed for the sake of some back end senior person's interest that they want to, or ego, right? And no other real reason. So I've sort of filtered myself there in pushing through content
also,
at that level.
what is your thought about the Reliance Future Retail and Amazon matter?
The arbitration dispute.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't, again, it's arbitration, so I don't want to go into it. I think we can talk about arbitration generally in the context of that case, is that India's at a very weird place with arbitration right now, where, Mr. Modi and the law minister's pet project is to make India a global arbitration hub. We
Right.
want more arbitration to happen in
But
India.
I
We
think
want more
most
millions
large
of.
scale arbitration still happens overseas, like in Singapore or
It
places like
does
that, right?
because Indian arbitration is just not conducive, not
Yeah.
cost wise, not certainty wise. It can, even if arbitration takes place, say in 2 years, right? There is arbitration that can finish in 1 year now. That has definitely gotten better, depending on the arbitrators you take,
Right.
depending on the interim sort of orders and
Right.
interim fights that you're fighting. You can still get in 1 to 2 years. You can get an order.
Yeah.
But after that, if there is a section 34 that goes to the High Court, the section 37, right, you're in the Supreme Court, and so on and so forth. Uh, to get an order enforced in India, and I was talking to a bunch of top
Defeats the
GCs about
purpose at
this
the end
last
of the
year.
day, right?
It
What's
can
the
take
point of?
15 to 16 years. And
Yeah.
I'll give you a simple thing, right? Future Group is one example. The Shadi.com dispute that was going on earlier this year, if you remember, the
Right.
arbitration dispute. Look at that. It's a promoter and a investor dispute, simple promoter exit
Yeah.
dispute, right?
Yeah.
Exit disputes have been going on in India for so long. There's been
Right.
so many judgments talking about when you can exit, what is a legal exit, what is an invalid clause, what is FMV,
So the
so on
law
and
is
so
still
forth.
a
Yet
lot clear, but there's still disputes and they're going on for
the
so long, right?
despite, and everybody's throwing the same judgments back
Yeah.
at the court and they're adjudicating on the same issues again and again, and it's taking the same timeline. But the problem is this: look, a fund, an investment fund, will have a 5 year plan for a particular company.
Right.
Be like, I'm going to invest in this company 1 crore, for
Right.
example, and I will go out at, say, 20 crores or 18 crores, whatever, in 5 years. This
Right.
is my exit mechanism, right? Now, IPO is an exit mechanism which is becoming better in India, that companies are reaching IPO faster and the public
Right.
market is lucrative. But if not, if I want to exit and the promoter doesn't want me to exit, right? That 5 years, if they go into arbitration, then they'll go into NCLT, oppression and
10 more
mismanagement.
years at least,
At the
right?
same time, they'll improve the RBI because how the way you're transferring money abroad through a short return.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that people do to pressure
Right.
you, right? And that whole process can take 20 years, 15 to 20 years at times, just one exit,
Crazy. Yeah.
right? Now, if my fund plan is 5 years
Yeah.
and I wanted to take that money and put it somewhere else, and I can't do that, then the risk that I allocate to a market like India
Yeah.
purely because of dispute risks is
Right.
so much higher and at such and so much more of a premium than it
And how
should be.
would like the fund justify it to their investors, like who gave them money to invest, right? That why did you choose such a
Right?
market where there's such a big disputes risk and the time where the money would be stuck is so long?
Yeah, yeah.
It is.
Most people tell me straight out that the biggest risk in India is choosing the right promoter from an investor
Right,
perspective.
right.
Choosing the right promoter is the most important thing. If you've chosen the right promoter, you can sort of, and see, people will always invest in India because it's such a lucrative market.
Yeah.
The returns are great. The secondaries are great. Public
The
market has
power of
become great.
volume is very high here. That's what makes it lucrative,
Volume
right?
is one thing, but
Yeah.
also returns is really good. It's, I mean, not only public markets, right? Even the secondaries market, it's really good. Exits are really good for investors.
Right,
The market is becoming, but if you get stuck in a dispute, and chances in India are that you may get stuck.
right.
Chances are anywhere else, that's a human to human thing. But in India, a promoter can use disputes as a tool to keep you hanging for a very long time,
Yeah.
which you can't do, say, in Singapore.
It'll
And that's
try
why
to
people will
kind
go to
of
Singapore.
push you into a settlement that's not favorable for
Yeah.
you, but then you
And
are like,
two
okay.
Indian law, Indian parties will choose English law to govern.
Yeah.
Why? So that they can get it done in a Singapore court or a court in England, wherever, LCI. So they don't have to enforce that judgment in Indian law. Right. And then there's execution. If it's Indian assets, you still have to execute in India in
Yeah,
many
yeah.
cases.
And getting
That
it
can take its own
executed is
time.
like it's a challenge in itself.
Yeah. So
Right.
that all boils down to the number of judges you have for the number of people. It's a huge, but generally training also, commercial minded training. For example, the DPDP Act has come now, right? The
Right,
data
right.
privacy law.
Digital
Now
protection.
I can't even begin to fathom how judges and the judiciary in India is preparing for disputes under this act. Because today, if I have a contract with you and you are Amazon, and I have ordered something from you, right? Now I have sent my data to you. That is a contract that you have, and I have, and I have given my consent. You have gone to the vendor who is selling the product. You're a marketplace, and
Right,
you've given my data to them. Now you have an agreement with them. I have no agreement with them.
right,
Maybe I don't know how that's going to work. And they now they have sent you it, and then you've gone to DTDC or whoever you're
right,
using to deliver,
right,
right? And you've given my data to them,
right.
right? Whoever, not DTDC, but whoever, you've
Yeah,
given my data there, and now I have no agreement with them.
right,
So when disputes come out of stuff like this, right, and it goes to court or it goes to a board, how the volume of disputes that's going to come or the potential for that is mad.
massive.
We're
Yeah.
going to increase pendency in our courts like crazy with the kind of laws if we don't prepare in such a litigious society where the government will never stop going into appeal, right? Because they, as a person, have to justify to their superior, why didn't you appeal this decision,
Right, right.
right? So there's a lot of very interesting and dichotomous things happening in India right now, where the government on one hand is saying that contracts will not have arbitration in Delhi
Right,
beyond a certain threshold. There's a 10 crore threshold,
right,
and otherwise on they've been saying in speeches that India needs to be an arbitration hub.
right.
The
Very contradictory.
meantime
Yeah.
to do a contract in India. So there's a lot of interesting stuff there. Yeah.
Right. So going back to liberalization of sectors, right, and the sector that we belong to is the legal sector. And lately, there have been some changes, as in foreign law firms are allowed to practice international law on a reciprocity basis. At least that was what was on paper. But there have been instances where there are challenges in terms of compliances for fly in, fly out, and things of that sort. And then we are seeing foreign law firm alliances with Indian law firms, and then Bar Council has a problem with them. So a lot has been going on in that space, and I would want to know what are your thoughts about it.
I think this is in one line. And a lot of people talk a lot of things about this. In one line, this is an ego battle and a battle for ownership over a very lucrative market.
Right,
That's it. Behind the scenes, everybody is saying a lot of things on paper.
right,
Essentially, the people who control this market are not, and this is honestly not a conversation we can have on video. That's the problem with our country,
that's the
but we
problem.
can't,
Right,
fortunately. But the idea is that the people who control this market want to keep it for themselves. On paper, they'll tell you that they feel like a lot. I'll tell you, I spoke to one managing partner
right,
last month who told me, I asked him, sir, what do you think will happen now that
right,
if foreign law firms, they're like, see, that means I will actually be able to charge more money. If today I'm charging $1,800 an hour,
Right.
right? I want to charge $2,500 an hour.
Right.
But if a foreign law firm comes to India and sets up an office here and puts some other normal person in charge of that office, and that person is charging $2,500, then I can tell my clients and potential clients that, look, you are paying 2,500 for that guy. Instead, come to me for 3,000 or for 2,500. I'm a much better, more known lawyer here, and I know.
Yeah.
So there are arguments and things people will tell you.
Yeah, but there are
Yeah.
aspects of it, like to this point specifically. Let's say it's an American company; they need advice, okay? And let's say there's an Indian law firm that has an alliance with an American law firm. Even if this other guy who is saying that I would do it for the
Not
same
allowed
money.
yet, huh? We don't have reciprocity with the US yet.
Oh yeah, but like let's say wherever we have
Let's say,
reciprocity,
yeah.
right?
Let's take a UK firm.
UK firm, yeah. So then the UK company would be like, no, I would much rather prefer that firm which has the alliance because then I'm more comfortable with them because the law
Yeah,
firm that
100%.
is from UK as well. So yeah, all kind of arguments have
100%.
different facets to it. But like,
Yeah.
yeah, what you are trying to say is that there's more to this than what meets the eye, and there are ulterior motives and people behind who are ensuring that they will use this as a tactic to keep the control in the market.
Yeah. Yeah. See, there are two good examples of this for different markets. In fact, I'll say three, but two real good examples. Let's look at Singapore and let's look at Japan.
Right.
Now, Singapore liberalized its legal market quite early. Singapore had a very flourishing local market, lot of good local law firms, right? And a lot of new upcoming local law firms coming because the demand domestically was increasing. And Singapore being such a strong, important global hub for finance, for shipping, for trade, right? There were a lot of lawyers coming, a lot of lucrative small practices. They allowed international law firms to come in. A lot of that got chewed up. Right now, the biggest firms, if you see, there are, of course, the top ones survive. The Cam, Sams, and Trilegals of Singapore are still there,
Yeah, but it
and
killed a
they're
lot
doing
of
well.
smaller law firms. Yeah.
It killed a lot of the tier two, tier three ones, and there are a few of them. And there has been a sort of a new wave and revival. But it's been a long journey from them because the
Right.
international law firms, either through tie-ups or through their own individual presence, have taken over that market.
Right.
What this doesn't mean, though, is it doesn't mean that Singapore lawyers are not making money. Singapore lawyers are still getting jobs there,
Yeah. So
right?
they're
In
working
fact,
for these
it
firms
gives
now.
Singapore lawyers an
Better pay.
easier avenue to go abroad
Yeah.
and better pay, of course, but it also gives them more opportunities to go abroad to explore laws of other countries, to maybe even
That
use
that
that
has
as
actually
upward
been a
mobility.
challenge for Indian lawyers always. It's like you're restricted to your market
Yeah,
because you can't really practice in a
yeah,
lot of other places, nor are there
yeah,
firms with offices abroad that would send you abroad, right?
yeah. Yeah, exactly. So that's the second market to look at is South Korea.
Yeah.
Now, South Korea is a market which had a very strong top four, top five large law firms, very similar to India, and
Right.
then a bunch of little smaller law firms that cater to a different business. Their international law firms came, and they're still there, but they've not. Japan and South Korea both, in
Yeah.
fact, are similarly structured. Japan,
Right.
so international law firms came either through tie-ups or on their own, but they never really made it big. Now they're part of the market. They do some work, international work, but the biggest firms there remain the local firms. Now, why are these two stories different? I am
I
not
think there
an
could be some
expert, I would say.
cultural difference also. I feel that Singapore, I think it's like a lot of Malay people came, or then a lot of people from a lot of different places. So they don't really have that native sense in a very deep rooted manner. So they were very welcoming of the newer firms, maybe. But like, let's say if we compare it to Japan or South Korea, they could have that preference for native organizations.
You're absolutely right, Pawan. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Singapore was a more global culture.
Yeah.
Singapore was more, you did not really need local cultural knowledge
Yeah.
to gain access. What you needed is regulatory understanding and maybe a regulatory network, which you could build without local knowledge. In
Right.
Singapore, in Japan, you can't do that.
Right.
And the Japanese, as a culture, just like us, would
They care
prefer to
about it a
deal
lot.
with
Yeah.
other people. No, no. So even if Indians, if you're working with why do you think most India heads at all these big law firms are all Indians?
Yeah.
because Indian clients love to deal with Indians, it makes sense
Right.
for them culturally,
Right.
because they feel like they will understand how we work. If they send something, or they're like, this
They
needs to
can
be sent on this,
resonate and they
they'll
can
understand.
relate basically. Yeah.
Yeah, there's small practical differences, right? And there's a sense of comfort.
Yeah.
So that's why Japanese firms have such a strong market in Europe now, like I said earlier,
Yeah.
because Japanese companies
Are
are
also
moving abroad
there.
to make
Yeah. True.
acquisitions.
True.
There,
True. True.
Japan has this wave of inorganic growth happening, where the
Yeah.
domestic market and regulators are promoting inorganic growth not through internal funding but through external acquisition, right? Not through domestic markets. So Japanese law firms have that opportunity now to
Right.
do that. So, in a similar way, so India is a market more like Japan, where cultural nuance is still important, and I think people are fearing that cultural nuance, because of the kind of professionalism Indian law firms show,
Might get lost. Yeah.
right? I mean, might get lost, but I don't think it will. At the end of the day, Indian clients and people with Indian money would love to talk to another Indian, would prefer to talk to another Indian. So
Right.
I feel there is space for international law firms, and the size of the market is such that we're almost as big as Japan now, right?
Right. Right.
The size of the market is such that there is
Huge.
space for international law firms and
And
Indian law
for Indian
firms.
law
And in
firms. Yeah.
fact, it may change the way Indian law firms, these family led Indian law firms, to actually
They
change
will
the
be
way they look
forced
at
to
growth and
evolve.
grow
Yeah.
at a,
Yeah.
yeah, and which may
Much
be
larger
good for the
scale.
market in its whole.
Yeah.
So, and I could be completely wrong about this, because these are predictions that you make, and everybody can make predictions based on what they're seeing. It may not go this way, but there is a path that you can see forward based on past examples. I'll give you another story about this. I did a story called Evaluating India about four,
Right.
5 months ago,
Yeah.
when liberalization was going on. I wanted to talk about how foreign law firms are seeing India as a market. They
Right.
told me one very fascinating thing. They said that uh, Chinese markets, when all American firms, right, and global firms looked at the China market the same way they looked at the 20 years ago, the same way they look at the India market now, right? They started coming into China. What happened is, the Chinese domestic market at the time was not professional at all.
Right.
They weren't really ready to cater to the needs of international clients.
Right.
They weren't really sufficing
The
in the
need
sort of
basically. Yeah.
requirement. Yeah, they weren't meeting that need. So there was a lot of scope for these international law firms, because of the money that was pouring into China globally, to
Right.
come and then support the international work that needs to be done, and slowly but surely also build out a domestic practice, which
Yeah.
was still though held with, especially because China outbound work increased heavily, which India is going to
Yeah.
see over the next 10 years.
Yeah.
Because the Indian domestic market at some point is going to become saturated. So,
Yeah.
the outbound work is going to increase. So China saw a lot of outbound work. Then international law firms were already on the ground.
Right.
But for a long time, this may not have been profitable in the dollar sense
Yeah.
for a lot of firms. It was subsidized by American equity.
Yeah.
And Americans may have gotten really tired of subsidizing their own equity profits to run offices all over the world like this.
Yeah.
So India practices are also often subsidized by American and other large equity, uh, partner equity, right? To run
I
these
think
sort
at
of
least that is
practices
what you have to do initially, right?
initially. Now, but the Indian market, the second rung of this, is that India's firms are today extremely professional and extremely exposed to
Right.
international clients and
They
transactions.
can meet the needs. Yeah.
They can handle all this on their own.
Yeah. True.
So when these guys have to compete, if a UK firm has to compete with an Indian firm, and an Indian firm is offering a fee and a rupee term,
Yeah. Yeah.
the UK firm can't offer that on the dollar to
More
pound
bang
term
for the
then,
buck
because
for
it doesn't make
almost the
sense.
near same quality, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. So the alliance format then stands out, because then if I am sitting in Netherlands,
Right.
right, and I need some work done in India,
Builds more
and I
confidence,
know that
basically.
Baker
Best of both
McKenzie
worlds.
or Dentons
Yeah.
or CMS has an office in India, and I work with one of these firms, I can be like, hey, can you get my wonder? They'll be like, yeah, I have an office in India.
Yeah.
I can get it done for you. And they don't really have an office in India. They have an alliance with an
Yeah.
Indian firm that has an office in India, right?
Yeah.
So, which is very important to say these days.
So
But
yeah, delving to the technicalities, right? Delving to the technicalities. What exactly are the guidelines, and how do you think the people who want to control the market are using these technicalities to kind of come up with problems for the new alliances? And what has been the stance that these alliances have had?
see, I'll tell you what. I wrote an article on this. I think you read it.
Yeah.
Uh, and I don't see the problem with regulating a market in the way you want to. That's your prerogative. I don't think. See, the BCI is constitutionally and statutorily, uh, empowered
Well
to
within the
create
right.
law.
Right.
Yeah, and anybody has a problem with that can take them to court. We
Right.
have
True.
a good writ jurisdiction to sort of handle that. But how you make this law, that is the real question. If you look at the BCI's regulation liberalizing the market that came out
Yeah.
earlier this year, it mentions a lot of things, including the concept of an Indian foreign law firm. The criteria for those are really not clear, but they say they need to be registered. I don't, I've read it 50 times and I don't fully understand what falls into this criteria, even
Right.
now. And I feel myself as a reasonably prudent person,
Right.
even if I'm not the smartest person in the room. Uh, and then that's fine. And the Dentons Alliance is already there for the last 2 years.
Been
The
for a while.
CMS
Yeah.
Alliance came after that. Yeah. The CMS Alliance came after that. I think if the BCI felt that, these were illegal, fair, they are the ones that made the law. So tell them in a non-litigious manner
Right.
that, hey, listen, we think we've come out with this regulation. You need to make this registration.
Mm.
I don't think they'd be unhappy making a registration like that.
Right. Right.
Right? There's obviously then it depends on the kind of conditions you put on them. But what essentially Dentons did in India is what Dentons has been doing across the world. India is one
Right.
of the
Right.
last market that they've come to in terms of they were opened in Philippines before they opened in India.
Right.
I
Right.
covered
Right.
that as well.
Much
They
smaller economy. Right. Yeah.
it's called a Swiss variant structure.
Right.
Now, essentially, for tax purposes, I don't know how to deal with that. In fact, recently I had a conversation with someone, and I'm waiting for more information to understand from a tax and accounting perspective how to look at a Swiss
How to
variant.
do that.
But
Yeah.
from a regulatory and structuring standpoint, I feel like it is a co-branding structure, right? Where
But
you sort
what BCI is saying is that the firm
and client
should still
referral.
look Indian. It should look an Indian entity, an Indian owned entity. If it gives out a
So
vibe of being
what is
a
the definition
alliance,
of that? What is the
yeah,
definition of
that
that?
is the exactly problem. They've kept the guidelines
Let me
very vague.
suggest some things. Let me suggest some things. Your managing partner should be Indian. The
Yeah,
people that work for you should be Indian.
should
The
lay out the
clients you
requirements
handle should be
if you
Indian.
want it
You
that
should
way.
be all your lawyers should be. Uh, but all these criteria are met
Yeah,
by all these firms.
right.
When you say they should look Indian, if you say
Yeah,
right, I don't know. Apart from the name, right?
yeah.
Apart from the addition of the
The
alliance in the
entity
name,
is Indian
which
in
is
all of the ways.
co-branding,
Yeah,
they're Indian law firms, in my opinion, and I could
yeah.
be wrong because I'm not the BCI. The BCI, my point is not right or wrong. The BCI may be right in what they're saying. My point is, how can you? My point is, you issued
They
a
need to tell
clarification
us
to say that
how
actually
to
this is
figure it out.
illegal,
Yeah,
and at the same time, you issued a notice saying
yeah.
that, hey, you guys are in violation of this. Give them a. Don't be so litigious with your own industry.
Right, right.
Be in a position where you expect them to grow. Now, a lot of
Support
people
them
came to me
basically.
a lot of people came to me when I wrote this article and told me that, hey, this is all a facade. These are just bigger law firms unhappy with the way these other law firms are sort of coming up through alliances, and they're eating it. I don't think that's true at all. I mean, maybe they're unhappy in some sense, but I don't think it's eating into their business.
Yeah.
The biggest firms
But
in
maybe
India
they're
are
afraid that
untouchable today.
eventually it will.
But that actually helps, right, for them to evolve.
Yeah.
For their lawyers today, one of the biggest problems in the big law firms, and you're already seeing some of this, and you'll see a lot more of this in the future, is a lot of the star partners are finding new homes.
Right. True.
One
There's a
big
lot of
star
shifting
partner,
happening every other day.
especially
Yeah.
among star partners,
Yeah.
unless you're that number one deal maker at the firm, and or if you don't agree, you're always looking. In fact, you're looking for international homes as well. But
Yeah.
because there's just not enough work for everybody at such a large organization, and there's not enough space to build your own practice out.
Yeah.
And even if you build your own practice out, because it's family run, right,
Yeah.
you don't feel like you have the say in the running of the firm that you should,
Yeah.
because it's
Understood.
somebody else's firm,
Right.
right? So there's a lot of other issues that can be solved with more competition in the market. That makes a lucrative option. So in the larger sense, competition in a legal market is not bad. And I don't think it will hurt the big firms if you look at it from a 15-year perspective, which they should at this point. Sorry.
I think the legacy firms are still taking a very individualistic view, wherein they are not trying to create global brands in terms of firms, but they still want like that, okay, this firm belongs to me. Like I would say
Yeah.
the bigger firms of other countries, like they have evolved into an entity of its own and barely like, of course, like the name is still there. But I think the association, like the individualistic approach, is not so much. Maybe also because they're very, very old and maybe the people who started them are not around anymore. But yeah, I think the legacy
Yeah.
firms need to reconsider that the true legacy will, stay alive in a firm that, becomes that evolved in that manner that you don't really
Yeah.
have the need for it to be associated to the individual anymore.
Yeah, yeah, and I think there are firms. See, there are big firms that are not associated to. Like Trilegal, for example, is not
Yeah,
really associated to any, and they're doing really well now. They're one of the
really well.
top
Yeah,
firms in
one
the
of the top
country,
ones. Yeah.
right? So there's the see, and it's not just about the name. Like I don't know, Kirkland and Ellis, for example,
Yeah.
one of the world's largest firms. I don't know who Kirkland or Ellis is. I
True,
don't know
exactly. Yeah.
when the last time they were involved with the firms were. Like
Yeah.
right, so it's like that a little bit, you put your names, and see, that's also a generational thing, because India's legal market is new. It's 25 years old, literally. So
Exactly,
the
exactly.
AZBs of the world, I'm not the AZBs of the world could stay AZBs when the founding partners sort of move on and hand over the reign whenever that
Yeah,
happens.
yeah.
And the firm could
We
survive
will
really
get to
well
see
and do
that
as
maybe
well as it's doing
eventually. Yeah,
today.
true.
But that's something we'll have to, yeah, you're right. We'll have to see where that goes. But I think there's enough space in the Indian market today for international law firms to come in. There's enough work. Anyway, the market
And
is
yes,
open
as
only
you
for
were
a
saying
very
that
small fraction
as
of
we become a
work.
bigger legal market, maybe we can do a lot of international work as well, right?
Yeah, yeah. See, the India outbound work is today. India's outbound work is very low.
Right.
Right, there's not enough outbound work.
Just
So
like you were
I'll tell
telling
you
me
a
for
very
China
interesting.
that eventually their
Yeah,
outbound work grew, right? So maybe that
yeah.
could happen to
I'll
India as
tell you a
well.
very interesting dynamic that plays out here. It's that, see, there are a lot of US firms that try to establish best friend relationships with India because
Right,
they saw all these big Indian conglomerates doing a lot of business, especially in healthcare and other
right,
sectors. All the
right,
big Indian conglomerates that you can think of, all of them.
right,
Right? They're with different firms in India, they're usually with. So they wanted all this work. So they established these sort of relationships and they say that we are giving you work. And there's a lot of US work going to India, right? Inbound
right,
from the US, India sees a lot of work. And so say a lot of this is going to XYZ firm. Now, what they expect is XYZ firm is tied to this conglomerate. So when that conglomerate wants to do work there,
right.
that work will come. Except that firm is just because the Indian client is not like, okay, you suggest which firm to go with, we'll go. The Indian firm telling them is, okay, I'll go with a good firm, but
Okay.
I need the best cost out of it.
Yeah,
I
true.
need somebody who will get the and Indian firms can't, they don't give that amount of work back to the same
Yeah,
firm.
yeah.
So a lot of US firms are frustrated with that. And often the other thing I've found out is that the US councils of these Indian conglomerates are not the decision makers. A lot of US firms, you would wine and dine with these Indian with the councils of these Indian
Right,
conglomerates in the US to sort of get their work, when they eventually found out that those guys are not the decision makers. The decision makers are the firms in India that these large conglomerates work with, who
oh,
decide where all the work goes. So the
yeah,
work is being funneled through these firms, and the firms are deciding where they go, and they sort of don't live up to the promise that they make when they're asking for work in a
right.
lot of senses. That's the experience that they have. I don't know if
Basically, the
it's true.
frustration was rooting out of a thing that they were feeling that this kind of a
Yeah.
best friend relationship is benefiting the Indian firms more
May
than
not work.
them.
Yeah. But over the next 10 years, I feel like next 10, 15, there's going to be a lot more outbound work. So maybe at that point was not the right time. People invested early and sort of you and were focusing more on the inbound work also. But with the outbound work now increasing, I think there is a real opportunity here for more international alliances. And firms like CMS, Indus Law, and Denton's Link Legal was a very small
Yeah,
firm,
very small
right?
firm, yeah,
It
true.
was and it's grown in stature over the last
Right.
2.5 years in terms of the people, the reputation it now possesses, the clientele it works with, and the sort of people that want to join it.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah,
it has
true.
better lawyers.
Better
So a
talent
lot
now.
of things come. Yeah, and when the whole international wave comes of work, say that the UK FTA, right? When
Yeah.
work sort of increases outbound, in the automobile sector, for example, where tariffs have really been dropped outbound, a lot of the firms, a lot of the work can be sort of funneled through Dentons Link Legal because Dentons is already there. So in
Yeah.
India, an car manufacturer in Pune can easily go to Dentons to
Yeah.
Link Legal and be like, can you ask Dentons? Because they have that arrangement. They can refer the work to Dentons very easily and it's seamless. The
Right.
idea is that it's seamless. You don't have to work through this referral system every time.
So
It's
you were
seamless
saying
work.
that you still want to understand the tax perspective of it, but there would still
Yeah.
also be some revenue sharing kind of a thing that would be worked out
I
between
don't
them.
think there is. In my head, there is not, but I mean, these things are really opaque, Pawan, to be honest with you. If I knew also, I would not tell you, but
Yeah.
because I would know off the record.
Yeah.
But in either sense, it's a really opaque. These arrangements are really opaque. The BC has asked for a reply and has asked for all these details.
Yeah.
So, these firms will probably tell the BCI what their arrangement is.
Yeah.
So we'll try to find out as journalists what's going on. But,
Yeah, I think if it's just a
this is a
simple
really opaque thing.
registration, it's just a simple registration, then I don't think it will be much of a challenge. But let's see how it plays out.
Awesome. No, what I was saying is Dentons Ring Legal has been around for 2 years.
Right.
Regulations came now. You said with the regulations that the market is now open for international alliances.
Yeah.
Dentons been here for 2 years.
Yeah. True.
Either you're saying Dentons was always illegal,
Yeah.
but then you didn't do anything about it for 2 years. And now there's a regulation, you'll do something under the regulation. Or you're saying that that system was legal, but now the regulations have changed and now it's become illegal.
Hmm.
Which means you're
Even even
modernizing through
the
a conservative approach.
even the
It's a
absence of
paradox.
even the absence of guidelines was somehow Denton's was legal. But now that the guidelines
Yeah.
are there, they're suddenly illegal.
It's weird. I just think it's weird to use enforcement muscle to create law through clarifications rather than proper regulatory certainty. And I think this is not just a legal sector problem, this is an India problem.
Yeah.
That we often act in a reactive manner rather than a proactive and preemptive manner. And it stems from there where we're like, okay, let's take action and see what happens. Instead, if we just make regulations clear, we work with stakeholders to make regulations clear, we can actually create a much better market. And maybe we're not doing that because the people that tell me that this is a facade and there are some powers, the people that control the legal industry is controlling it,
Controversies.
maybe, right?
Yeah.
Maybe it's that, but I choose not to believe in that. I choose to believe that it's just the way we are as Indians. We're
Yeah.
little reactive rather than proactive. And if we just settle down and make things clearer, work with stakeholders, and a lot, like for example, SEBI is doing
Yeah.
a fantastic job now.
Yeah, I think you gave this comparison, and it really made sense to me as well. That SEBI has
Yeah.
done a fantastic job. Maybe Bar Council could take similar view for the legal market.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look at the way it's evolved and look at
Yeah.
the way it's sort of creating laws, creating regulations. Of course, there's a lot of
There are
need for
aspects of SEBI
clarification,
as well
everything,
that we
but
at times feel that they are not
yeah,
truly living up to it.
I
Like
mean,
if
the
we
more
compare it
you
to
are
the
exposed to it,
American counterpart, like SEC, they do a much better job at like protecting the market and the investors than SEBI does. But of course, then they are
I
older.
wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that. I think their goals are different from the SEBI's. I think SEBI is still looking at towards the goals that SEBI has. I think it's doing quite a good job. The stage at which the Indian market is versus the stage at
But
which
what
the maturity
the
stage.
recent thing that happened with that firm, the trading firm, I can't recall the name, but they simply just like accepted a penalty and then they are now allowed to trade again, where they felt that they were somehow using some kind of a technique which was not legal.
Is this the Indian firm or the US firm?
The Indian firm, like the US firm that was trading in India in futures and options, and they were recently charged with a hefty penalty.
Which one was this?
It starts with M, I think. Maybe penalty.
Oh, you're talking about Jane
Jane
Street. Are you talking
Street.
about Jane Street?
Jane Street, yeah.
Are you talking about Jane Street?
Yeah, Jane
Okay,
Street. Yeah.
it's a more complicated than how you explained. So I was wondering what you were saying.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. No, I honestly, um, fair enough. Your point is fair. That but look at the US, right? They
Like
do these things where they went after crypto all at once.
let's say if SEBI found out, okay, these people are using practices that are harmful to our retail investors or whoever is trading in the futures market, right? but people lost money, right? And SEBI gained money by taking this action. Like how did it like protect the people? Because now Jane Street is allowed to trade again by, paying up that penalty.
Uh, Honestly, it's a much deeper discussion than that.
Yeah.
Firstly,
No, this is
it's
very
not.
surface level. Yeah. I'm sure like
If
there
you're
could be
looking at it
much
as a
more to it.
policy-wise treatment, uh, deterrence is what I think we should be looking at.
Right.
How how we treat companies like Jane Street. I think deterrence is a problem in India. Like I said, we're more reactive than we are proactive. We sort of see that okay, this is going wrong, then we sort of act. Then maybe it becomes a deterrent. But if we create deterrence infrastructure in our country to sort of prevent things from happening, which SEBI is moving towards. It is moving towards. I must say it is. But yeah, there are examples where things are going wrong. But there are examples in the US also where things
Yeah.
go wrong. And the way they went after crypto, for example, it was more reactive than proactive, right?
Yeah.
People
True.
had been talking about FTX for a long time, and then SEC only because at some point you have to draw that balance between allowing the market to self-regulate and self-calibrate versus stepping in
Right.
as a market entity. So that depends on the stage of maturity of your market. India is nowhere close to where the US is. So comparing ourselves to the SEC is wrong
Right.
in that sense because the way the SEC functions and its goals are very different because that's a very mature market.
Right. True.
India, the level of disclosure there is much higher
Much higher. Yeah,
also.
true.
In India, the way we're regulated at the stage of maturity that we are, we can't compare ourselves to the SEC. But I think the SEBI is doing a really good job. And that's why foreign investors, even though there is a lack of clarity,
SEBI is
but that
also,
lack of clarity comes from
improving the
more and
disclosure
more.
norms every now and then.
It,
Like they
it
keep
is.
on making
It
amendments
is.
to it. Yeah.
It is, yeah, it is. Which is, and they're actually quite on top of the game. Like if you speak to their whole time members, they're very commercially savvy,
Yeah.
right? They're really friendly. They really understand commercial mindedness.
They
They
want to
understand
benefit the
commercial
market overall,
urgency.
basically. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So they understand newer concepts faster. It's no longer old office paper pushers that used to be India's pride. It's not that sort of system anymore. They're
Yeah,
very on top of the
they
market,
have
which is really
found
important.
things which are really technical. Like they have found a few violations wherein a lot of technical stuff was involved. So SEBI is like very
Yeah,
equipped in that manner. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
All right. So
Absolutely.
moving on towards the end of the podcast, what is one advice or maybe a series of advices that you would have for young lawyers who are still in law school and looking out to make a career in this industry?
In journalism or in
Could
law?
be journalism, legal journalism, or just normal corporate law practice, or maybe litigation
Okay.
disputes.
Uh, your college life, you should take not too seriously. Be light about it, but make sure that you start planning your career then. And there are see, college is not about 100% fun or 100% work, right? It's about
Needs to be a
90% fun and
balance.
10% work. No,
Oh,
just
not a
90%
balance.
fun, 10% work.
Fun
That's
should
it.
dominate most of it. Yeah.
Because I mean, see, as a person, your personal choices, how you have fun can be different. I'm not saying everybody should go drink.
Yeah.
That's not my solution. Whatever you do to have
Yeah.
fun, whatever you do to chill, do that. But that even if you over 5 years, if you give 10% to your career,
Yeah.
right? That is just making sure you get the right internships. When you're at your internships, make sure you're not just chilling with your co-interns. Make sure you're building a connection with some lawyer over there, like I did with Sandeep.
See,
Clearly,
I would truly,
just
truly
small,
agree to this. Yeah. So basically, like I
yeah,
also didn't take my internships very seriously until I was in the third, fourth year. But when I did take an internship, I did such an amazing job that I was offered a job there itself. So that's
there
what
you go.
when you
Yeah,
have that stage of your law school journey that okay now shit hits
yeah,
the roof, so you need to be serious about it. So yeah, I think that's good
yeah.
advice.
So make sure, so and make sure you build the right friendships in your college because those will stay with you for life. And there are people who will not see you any other like. There are people who have seen you at your worst. If they've
Yeah.
stayed with you in HNLU, especially,
Yeah.
they have seen you at your
Yeah.
worst. So remember those are the people that my friends that I had in college are still my friends now.
Yeah, and
And
yeah, I feel
it,
that people evolve differently, like in terms of their
yeah,
profession, their career, and everything. But to you, they're still the same person, right? And I think that is a
yeah,
beautiful
yeah,
feeling in
exactly.
itself. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think the last thing would be that just don't get overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Things will, if things can work out for me, things can definitely work out for anybody. And a
I
lot
think
of it
you're
is luck. A lot of
underplaying
it is random.
yourself. Yeah.
No, no, it's it's true. A lot of things in life are just being in the right place at the right time and making sure you got a stable head that is balanced and not anxious on your
Right.
head, and then you'll take the opportunities that come your way.
All
So
right.
that's the, I think, the best thing I can tell you.
All right. So, with that fantastic message, we come to the end of our podcast. And I thank you very much, Nimit, for turning out here. And definitely, very good insight about whatever is going on with the Indian legal market. And if someone has to reach out to you or stay in touch with your work, what would the measures be?
ET Legal, Nimitt Dixit, you can Google me.
Right. All right. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Pawan. Thanks for taking the time.
We'll stop the recording.